Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our latest episode of Diary of a CIO. I am joined this morning by my guest, Rebecca Fox. So, hi, Rebecca, and welcome.
Hey.
Very quick intro to Rebecca. Rebecca is a experienced technology leader and is currently Group CIO at NCC, based in Manchester. Prior to her current role, Rebecca ran her own tech consultancy, providing interim CIO and leadership solutions to businesses. And she's worked across multiple industries, including senior roles at organisations such as Mace and Saddles. Outside of work, Rebecca is busy, and she is often volunteering for multiple charities who support LGBTQ plus young people who are experiencing their own challenges in life. She's a mum, a dog owner, a student, and quite partial at times to a decaf coffee and a bit of cake. Also a vegetarian, and like me, rates her life based on her sleep quality. So we've already got something in common. So quick intro to you, Rebecca. Thank you so much again for joining us.
Thank you so much. And by the way, what a great introduction, right? It sounds like I'm quite an amazing person. I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure that is reality, but thank you so much. Make me feel good about myself.
Good, excellent. Let's start on a positive note. So I always start with the same question because I think this is a really interesting question to get the conversation going. But did you know you wanted to be a CIO? Was that kind of on your kind of plan in life and kind of ambition to get there?
So I can't remember the order of any questions you can ask me, but I'm going to start why I was never thought I'd be a CEO when I first got into it. I got into IT when I was 8. I could code when I was 8. And really? Let's start with that. And I'm talking about privilege, right? My dad, my mum and dad. My mum was a nurse, then she went to lecturing, and my dad was an engineer. A mechanic at trade. I want to feel like my son's also a mechanic now, but my dad was a mechanic and an engineer, and he got into computing. So when I was very young, he used to teach IT. Not that it was IT at school then. He used to teach that. So he used to bring computers home, and I used to sit next to him and watch him code. And I could code at quite an early age, and that's what got me into technology. I was so very lucky. When people ask me how I got into it, that's it. And I don't think there are many people that have had that, I'm going to call it luck, but that privilege that I had from my dad, and I had that from a very young age, and that's how I got into technology. When, let's be really clear, right, there was no concept of an IT manager. There was no concept of having somebody leading technology at an executive level in an organization, right? There was maybe 1 or 2 computers that were joined together on a network made out of bits of string, and that was it. So concepts of a CIO didn't exist when I first started IT, but also my first job in IT. I was the only person in IT, and I was the person that did the programming, fixed the printer, did the, 5, 6, 7 computers in the organization. So that's their old home as well, right? So, yeah.
And did you kind of, are you just an ambitious person that was kind of, are you someone that's kind of always striving to progress? Is that in your kind of DNA, or is it
definitely accidental? Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely. I'm not going to say I'm sharp elbowed, right? But you've got to have something about you to push. I think also, maybe I'm going to swear just one little bit here, right? So at one point in my career, the chairman of this organisation, during an acquisition, he said to me, Rebecca, there's talent's like cream, right? It floats to the top, and of course the alternative to that is shit also floats to the top. I hope to think that I'm the cream part of talent than the other type of talent. And yeah, I'm definitely ambitious. I also like to think I've got the talent to do a good job in my role. I certainly know that I've worked for poor bosses. I'd hate to think, of course, some people do, and you sometimes that kind of where you not think you do a job is. I think I do a good job at what I do, and I think I'm the right person to do my job. Certainly, my organisation, the organisations that I've worked in at whatever level I've worked in.
Yeah.
So early on, didn't know what CIO was, didn't exist. When they did, definitely that's the role for me, right?
Yeah. And was there kind of a crossroads moment? Was there kind of a decision that you had to make, or a risk that you had to take to kind of make that decision to get there?
You mean from that $1 million question? Is like you down the technical route or down the management route? And it's is that the
which probably naturally took you in a direction where your career is today?
Yeah, definitely. And I very was that it's not even English, is that I was very technical, right? I mean, let's be really clear, I could code early on, and I love logic, right? That whole my partner, she I'm not going to say she might watch this, but it's like, she says, Rebecca, you're like a robot sometimes. Maybe we'll talk about brilliant is boring, right? Or boring is brilliant. But it's like, I love technology. Technology is the enabler of doing amazing things. But the thing that enables technology, of course, in that kind of loop is people. Mm-hmm. And there's definitely a point in my career where I realized that for me to scale technology, you've got to really think about the people that are doing it. So technology is brilliant. You code one thing or you create one thing and you can scale it. But the only way you can really do that is through people. The only way you can do it. But obviously, of course, you get that exponential curve when you layer on technology as well. But yeah, I definitely learned early on in my mid-20s that definitely was about people. And I had a really early break in leadership in my early mid-20s. And it was that point when I started managing people way too early. By the way, I was way underqualified. It was a lucky break. Clearly, that work hard and and an opportunity when they meet, that's when you get your luck. And I did this job for 4 years. Start of it, I was a very, very naive person. At the end of it, I definitely had grown enormously. Still wasn't a confident manager, but I definitely, in that role, that was the role where I stopped doing the technology at work, and kept that to outside thinking. It was all about people and strategy and how you can get people to deliver technology to benefit the business.
Yeah. And am I right in thinking this is your first permanent CIO role that you've?
Definitely the title of CIO. I've done IT director roles, and sometimes they're interchangeable. And let's be really clear, when I took this role on, I joined as interim IT director, and the role has changed and grown significantly in the last, I'm going to say how long I've been here now, so 2.5 years.
Right.
So when I first joined, it was literally that IT role looking at technology, but it also arrived at the tail end of quite a big technical transformation or business transformation stuff, which I then picked up, and then it grew into this CIO role, reports into the chief exec. But previous roles, when I'd worked as part of my interim career, and a number of people working with me at that time too, very much worked with the CEO or the very, very senior IT people in larger organizations. There's no, if I think back to those early days of IT, right, it was just a computer that would do, a spreadsheet and print out some charts or from some data or run the payroll. Right now, technology underpins everything we're doing. Like, it's very cool. We couldn't be doing it, right? Unless we were sat in the same, we wouldn't have happened. Technology underpins everything we do. And going back to the CEO, it's the people that make that happen in my organization, but in every organization that is using that technology to its best effect and driving the best value from it.
Yeah. So you've run your own business and you're now in a CIO role. So you've done various senior level roles. Any role at that level is demanding. How do you balance professional and personal, family demands and kind of demanding boards? How do you do that?
It's hard, right? I guess one of the advantages is my son's 28, right? So he was I was quite young when he was there, and it's lovely because actually there's not a very big age gap between us. But he's grown up. All I've got is my dog, who's sleeping next door to me in the bed, and my partner, she also has a career too. So I think it will be a lot harder doing the role I am now. Maybe 20 years ago. But even then, I cast my mind back to the roles then. I mean, it was hard, right? It's hard to balance and juggle family and any sort of career, right? Let's be really clear. It's just hard, and you beat yourself up constantly saying, I've got to do more for this, I've got to do more for that, or I'm going to miss that opportunity there, I'm going to miss that opportunity taking my child to school or spending some time with them. It's hard. I think you just have to be very good at planning, and have a very supportive, network around you, whether that's family or whether that's friends or whether that's paid support. It's just hard.
Yeah.
Anyone who thinks it's not hard is better than me, that's for sure.
Or maybe they're not quite telling the truth.
Possibly that too, right? And the one thing I would say is about it is you've also got to make sure that you're looking after yourself, right? And that is definitely easy when you've got support around you, but looking after yourself, if you're not, it sounds really selfish putting yourself first, and that's not about being ambitious. But if you're not putting yourself first and your own, setting your basic needs first, and whether that we talked about sleep, didn't we? Before we started recording this. But just I love sleep. Just like if I'm not got enough sleep, I'm grumpy. If I don't do exercise, I just thought I used to do exercise every day. And for the last couple of weeks, I was traveling with work. But at that point, I also stopped doing my exercises every day. I'd do 20 minutes exercise every day, and that literally would really help me too. But I stopped doing it. I just started doing them over the weekend because I've just come back from a week in a very wet Lake District, and I started doing exercises on Saturday. My legs today are really killing me, but I do know that in 2 days' time that pain will go away. I'll get back into doing my 20 minutes exercise, and I will feel so much more energized. I'll definitely sleep better. I'll want to eat better, and it is about giving yourself. It's okay to spend that time on yourself. And it might be when the kids are away, or kids are away, that'd be helpful. The kids are in bed, right? Or or just if you can, set your alarm a little bit earlier, or just prioritize your evenings a little bit different when the kids have gone to bed. It's hard, but just try and give yourself some of that stuff back. The other thing, also, I'm not going to boast, but I also stopped drinking about 3 years ago, and actually that gives me so much more time in my life, because I would go out in the evening, you'd go and do something exciting, and I'll do that work when I get back, or do that exercise when I get back. I don't know about you, but when I was drinking a glass of wine, not that I drink a lot, right? But it'd be like you just take stuff. Not that I'm preaching to everybody, also be vegetarian too, right? But just that really helped me. And that social thing that we have is like you've got to be this thing to fit in. You don't play it and do it your way, right? Whether it's your CIO role or your home life, just do it the way you want to do it. But please make sure you look after yourself, because if you don't do that, you can't look after anyone else.
Yeah, it's that age-old thing when you're on the aeroplane and they tell you to put your oxygen mask on first. And I think women in general don't always do that. We're always very quick to prioritize work, prioritize family or home or partners or whatever. And actually, you're right, that investment into you. And if for you that's not having a glass of wine and it's the exercise, that's brilliant. So,
well, let's be really clear. It's just the exercise again, right? I didn't do it for 2 months, right? And now I'm definitely regretting it. But it will be fine. It'll be fine in a couple of days.
You've just got to get back on the horse. So so gender diversity in tech leadership roles, that we know it's an issue. We know that there's there are very few women that perhaps have had maybe the opportunity that you had to get passionate about tech at a really early age for a start. Is it harder to be a female CIO, to operate at a C-level in any role as a woman, do you think?
We've got a really, if I look at our exec board, the people that report into our chief exec, we've got more women than men, right? And it's great. And that's for we're a cybersecurity business, right? We're as tech as it gets, I guess, and which is brilliant. I guess for me the challenge is not about there definitely is a thing about the senior roles. Actually, not all CIOs have a technical background, right? I certainly worked for, in the old days of IT director, there were people doing those jobs that weren't technical, and actually that kind of upsets me a bit, because I think it's really hard to have a conversation with a technical team or people that are, even depending how big the organization, even the managers in there, the mid-level managers haven't come from a technical background, but actually I think it's hard. There are very few roles, I think, in an IT function where having a technical background of some sort is helpful. It's got to be helpful to have a technical background. I think the biggest challenge for diversity, either in leadership but just in IT generally, is is girls, and it always stems back to girls, right? The girls at school learning STEM subjects, they definitely they do more physics, they definitely do more science and maths than ever before. But when it comes to doing, computer studies or computer science, I mean, I think the word computer is a little bit outdated now, right?
Yeah, doesn't help.
It doesn't help, and there's definitely,
No.
is it digital studies, whatever it is, but it's like they'd rather choose the sciences and then choose something more social. And I was at an event a few weeks ago talking about this, where they drop it all the way to choosing options. Girls were kind of there, still a smaller percentage than the boys, but then they suddenly dropped the computer study stuff, which is a real shame. But I would also go back to IT underpins, technology underpins everything we do, right? Whether it's, simple things like social media, but every single business uses some form of technology, whether it's simple things of just getting emails or doing their accounts. They all use technology. And for large organizations like ourselves, without technology, we wouldn't exist as a business, right?
Yeah.
Not that we wouldn't, we couldn't exist as a business. So it for me, it all starts back at schools. What are we doing? And I don't just mean, women, but what are men doing? What is everybody doing? Government, everything globally, not just in the UK. What are we doing to encourage the girls to take up, technology studies, not just STEM subjects, because that's the only way we're going to get, more women in senior roles, but also more women coming through the ranks doing technical stuff. I think I've got about 25% gender mix in my team, which is never good enough, but it's just so hard to find talent, full stop. And it's just I think I said before, it's just hard, but you can't give up. But we've definitely got to start with the girls at school, and of course that is then going to take decades to flow through, and we're getting nowhere fast with that at the moment.
Yeah, I went into my kids' school recently and did a presentation for International Women's Day about jobs in technology, because I was trying to illustrate that in 10 years, 20 years, every job is a tech job. And they're the last year of primary school, so they're still young, but these are when these preconceptions are kind of really instilled in them. And at the end, I said, does anybody, I gave them what these jobs are going to be, and they sounded really exciting. And I said, has anyone thought about a job in technology? And there was 40 kids in the room, and not a single girl put their hand up. And that's the reality, isn't it? You were 8 and had that passion at an early age, but they're just not aware of what the roles entail. And
I say privilege, but it was without question luck. It was without question luck. So yeah.
So obviously your dad had a big impact on getting your career going. Who's inspired or influenced your career throughout your kind of working life? Has there been any kind of real key individuals that have had an impact?
Yeah, you mentioned I work at Mace. The guy that I work for, who's the IT director at Mace, definitely inspired me very much in terms of how he started to really open my eyes in terms of how he was very business aligned. He's like, I think people often sit in silos in technology and go, actually, I'm here just for the fun of doing technology. And I still find it quite challenging when I see people in my own team throughout my career where it's just like, I'm here for the technology, right? And I get that. But actually the reason you're here, and I talk about technology underpins business. Technology is great, but unless it's actually contributing to the bottom line of a business, and if I'm talking about a business or an organization, whether it's making money or a charity, whatever else, it's got to be contributing something either today or tomorrow. If it's not doing that, why are you doing that? And I'm not negating the need for R&D and research, because we absolutely need to do that. We need people that are learning what this technology can do, but unless it's actually contributing to today or the future, why are we doing it? And he definitely empowered me with getting that really clear and set in my mind. And that was kind of probably my late 20s. I certainly had a very inspiring boss in my first job, who actually, I worked for a mining company, part of Rio Tinto as it is now, and I worked for this guy called Ian Barston Jones. Let's do some name dropping. I've not met Ian for many years, but Ian absolutely inspired me. He's just a brilliant manager, brilliant guy, and he was one of those people that was technical but had another job. His job was a metallurgist, by the way. People don't know what that is. Basically, work out where you can dig a hole to get out the metallurgy from the geology, right? And he used technology to enable him to analyze the data that he'd got from this stuff. And it took me a long time to again align that up. Technology supports the business, and then of course you have those bosses that are, you clearly think, and this is about me going into, think about leadership, and my job is about leaders, right? It's all about people. Of course it's about the technology, but it's all about getting people to do work brilliantly, to be motivated to do the right thing, to use that technology skill I've got to again provide the value today or tomorrow to the organization. I definitely worked for some bosses that didn't inspire me to work, and I think you know, as much as you're going, I want to leave here tomorrow, you need to learn from those people just as much as you learn from the brilliant people.
Yeah.
Be like, I'm not going to be this kind of leader, or get the, they're like that for a reason, right? So understand why they're behaving like that, and either give them some sympathy or empathy that's why they're like that, or just learn not to be like that in the future.
Yeah, we won't mention those in person.
I wasn't going to mention those, but yeah, some names are in my head now thinking.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's taking positives from every situation as well, isn't it? So
if you're not learning, you're dying, right?
Yeah.
And actually you've in those roles where you think I really don't want to be here. And by the way, definitely I absolutely, I'm one of these people that's really lucky. I have loved, I'm not gonna say every day I've worked, right, but I love what I do. I love working with technology. I certainly developed some values along the way. So for example, I certainly won't work with certain organizations that do certain things. I'm not a big fan of gambling. I'm not a big fan of giving people cancer. Those kind of places I wouldn't work for, right? I would actively, and climate is another one. Just, there's certain, but I know I'm privileged. I'm later on in my career. I can choose not to work for those organizations.
Yeah.
I also get that some people younger in their career, often don't have choices.
Yeah. So it's important to you that you work for a business that's aligned to your personal beliefs. That's a key thing.
Yeah, and as let's be really clear, as a gay or an LGBT woman, right? I mean, there's certain things, there's certain countries in the world where I wish our current organisation didn't operate in, but also I've got to be mindful that we are still a business and we need to go there with the values, or certainly the values that I have, and certainly the business I'm aligned to, just to make sure that we're doing the right thing for our own people, but also making sure that we're role modelling the behaviour that we expect to see whenever we can.
What do you think are the kind of key attributes that every CIO needs? And that's a bit of a general question. I know you talked about having that business knowledge first and the people leadership, but what are the key things?
Yeah, and so I definitely advocate technology background before the leadership, and I'm not saying that is for every leader in technology at all. I'm not suggesting it. By the way, I'm starting to think that we talked about technology being everybody in a technology job. I also can start seeing that of a CEO, right? Unless you understand technology, as well as business, right? I think it'll be harder and harder to do the top job too. And I think it'd be quite interesting over the next few years whether we start to see CIOs starting to step into those CEO roles, and certainly the ones that have properly have moved away from that technical stuff. I think the leadership thing. I think that ability to lead people, and I have a team of nearly 200, and it's global. So I think the ability to lead and motivate people is absolutely probably the number one thing you need to do. Because if you're not leading, you're not motivating, the people aren't going to be doing stuff, right? They're not going to be doing the stuff. I think the next thing is also to make sure you set a direction of travel. And I think about my organization, there are multiple business sectors actually, and sometimes it means we're doing this here, we're doing that there, we're doing that there. So I think being able to articulate and set that vision, and then underpin that with that kind of, that ability to motivate and lead people is absolutely important. And I think, the third thing, and I think, whether it's 1, 2, and 3, is just understand the business, right? If you don't understand the business you work in, and you understand the technology more than the business, I think you can't do your job. So if I didn't know what our business did, how it made its money, how it leveraged the technology we've got, but also how we work with our customers, I don't think hand on heart I could be doing a good job. If my job was all about technology and not about business, I'd be doing a poor job.
And how do you get under the bonnet of a business, particularly, when it's a sector that you haven't worked in before?
It's a great, well, this is, yeah, it's a really great question. This is what I absolutely loved about, and I would absolutely recommend to anybody to do some consulting, do some interim work, do something where you are totally out of your comfort zone. Ironically, my partner's starting a new job today, so congratulations to Hayley. Well done to her. And but when you do interim work, this is the point I'm going to make on that, is you've got to start a new job on a reasonably regular basis, right? You've got to push yourself to do stuff in a different place with new people, with new technology. Is just get comfortable with appreciating change and getting stuck into that change. But also, when you want to understand the business, the only way you get it right is you talk to people. As much as you want to read the annual report, which is, it's an annual report, right? It's there for the city. It's there to impress people, but actually genuinely understand the business. You've just got to talk to people, and that's not just people in your own team. It's people from all different sections of the organisation you work in. You've got to understand what that is. You've got to understand where it makes its revenue. You've got to understand where it makes its profit. And you've got to understand why customers are buying your service, and more importantly, why customers aren't buying your service, and then work out what your role is in your technology leadership role in terms of how you support that, or how you're not supporting that, or how you can further support that. I think the only way is to talk to people.
Yeah.
And do it as soon as you get in, right? Don't think, oh, I'll get to know the technology first, I'll do the business later. To me, unless there's a burning technology platform, it's the thing you do first alongside getting to know the people that you work with.
Right. That's really good advice, actually. And do you think, because obviously I think the tenure of a CIO role is definitely getting shorter.
Is this where you're telling me it's about 2.5 years? Hang on a minute.
I mean, typically you see change at that level every 2 to 3 years now. Why do you think that is? Because 10 years ago a CIO would be in post for 5 to 7 years. Why do you think that is, in your opinion?
I think the hunt for talent is getting harder. I think the hunt for talent is getting harder. I'm absolutely sure, and I think there's more things on offer for good CIOs to do that, right? I joking about I'm here 2.5 years. I joined an organisation that was going through change. It's but every organisation, tell me any organisation that's not going through change, there's very little space in an organisation where there's any level of stability for a long period of time. I definitely watch the 3-Body Problem on Netflix. This is my television. That's a bit of a, by the way, recommend everybody. It's a total head mesh, but it's brilliant, and it talks about this ability of evolution on a different, far solar system, and basically because they can't control the stability of where they are. But every organisation, certainly now, technology is definitely one of these things, right? Technology is it's changing all the time, and it's the technology of, we think back about how old the tech firms are, right? They're literally the big ones are about a decade old now, right? Let's be really clear. The level of change that we have demands that you actually want different leadership, not just at the top, but certainly at that technology level to take you through that. And actually, it's exhausting going through change, right? And actually, one of the things that gives you new energy is having a new problem somewhere else. And I think that's probably one of the reasons. I definitely think there's a thirst for getting talent, and I think organizations are hunting out CIOs that are new, that are different, that have been somewhere else. But I think it's just also it's an exhausting job, right? We talked about sleep. I love my sleep, and without sleep, I definitely don't work as well. I don't think as clearly as what I do. But I think that the churn of and I've not seen it, right? I mean, I've worked in interim, so I definitely was doing roles for a year, 2 years, and then moving on. You'd expect that, right? As actually a permanent CIO would come in and hopefully pick up the good work that I'd done. But I think a CIO, being there more than 3 or 4 years is probably actually taking stuff away from the business. And I am a massive believer that fresh blood in any organisation is a good thing. And I sometimes joke, and hopefully none of my team are listening. I'm sure some of them will be, but that concept of you give someone an extra day's holiday for every year they work there, what you should be doing is taking away the holiday to to encourage people to leave and actually have that, and it swings and roundabouts, right? But just on that, just I think the job as any leader, as any manager, is to make sure you manage on performance, and actually making sure that you've got the right team in the right place at the right time. And I think, as we talked about people being a thing, definitely is any job, whether it's a CIO job, CEO job, just a manager looking after a small team, making sure you've got the talent there, because it's the people that give you the progress, and your ability to lead those people in a direction that you want to go to advantage of the business. That's the key to it all, right? Whether it's a CIO job or any other job.
Yeah. And what's your direction then? What are your top priorities over the next 12 months as CIO?
Wow. So we have literally just finished implementing a new platform to help us with our business. I'm not going to go into specifics of what that is from a cyber point of view. Clearly, the second one would actually, I always say it's number one priority is cybersecurity, right? I'm a cybersecurity business. We are under constant attack. I mean, the one thing that keeps me awake at night is a ransomware attack, right? And do I think we've got perfect security? The answer is we've got really good security. Do I think it's perfect? I don't think there's anything perfect, right? I work with some very, very talented people, not in my function, but the wider business. And some of the stuff I hear and see is, it's pretty scary stuff, right? And it's a real privilege to listen to those stories and hear some of the good things and the bad things. So build on the now pretty solid platforms that we have in our organization, which I inherited when I joined 2.5 years ago, and have subsequently built to a place. So the phase 2 is properly leverage those, so move from a technology transformation to a general, how do we globalize our processes on those platforms? And we absolutely can do that now. We never have that ability before. The second, but always number one, is making sure we're protected from a cyber point of view, and that is quite hard in a complex global business. So that is always there. And I think the third one is, and I'll talk about people as a fourth one, but the third one is data, right? We have such a lot of data in our organization, as every organization does, right? There's so much data. How can we do more with the data that we've got? How can we join the dots together so that we can predict the future better? We can see where the customers are going. How can we do that more? My job in that team is about how can we enable our business to start seeing stuff they've never seen before and never knew existed. And then possibly, and not possibly, but definitely, how do we layer AI over the data element of that, and probably AI over some of the automation? But AI will slowly come out as it starts sitting on top and gets built into those applications that we've got as our core technology foundation. And I think that the fourth one is the people again, right? This drive for talent, and this there in your business, right? Please don't poach my people. Just
that's the deal of doing the podcast.
Is that what it is? Yeah. I'll do a podcast all day. It's literally just talent, right? You want people, as you say, to stay in your organization for 3, 4, 5 years. I think that's if you've got someone that far, whether it's the CIO or whether it's somebody working on the service desk, and they're good people that are doing the right things the right way, that's great. And I think just making sure we look after the people, and let's be really clear, they're all good. So definitely keep off, but they're just keeping the people doing the right thing for the right reasons in the right way. I think that definitely is the fourth challenge. So talk about leveraging the systems that we've now got, that platform, that core platform we've now got, the cybersecurity, again, always number one, the data, layering eye on that, just that people thing that, I don't know, that's not a 3-part list, but it's 4.
Yeah, we'll add another one on. You've mentioned your team a lot, and we also talked earlier on about some of the people that have influenced your career and really kind of motivated or encouraged and mentored you. Do you have a mentor scheme at at NCC?
We
Is
do.
that something you, yeah, and have you got external mentors or are they internal mentors? How does it work?
So definitely some people have got external mentors. I'm definitely a big believer in mentoring. You talked about the work I do for Albert Kennedy Trust, or AKT as it is known now, which is an LGBT homeless youth charity. So people that are either homeless or very near homelessness, pretty much based on the fact they're LGBT, and having someone mentor you, more than coach, I guess, but you know, the two are quite interchangeable sometimes, I know, but just mentoring you and having someone to help you understand the situation you're in, or the situation you might be in, is really, really helpful, right? We have an internal program across NCC, so people, you know, throughout the organization and globally, is super helpful. And of course we do get external, I'm not saying professional coaches and mentors, but that does also happen in the organization too, when it's needed or when people want it.
Do you have a mentor now, or is it kind of, have you got to the level where, unfortunately, as it happens, it's quite difficult to seek out somebody who can kind of add value, or, you know, give you something that's needed, which must be quite hard, because it's
it's a great question. So I have a coach. I've got a coach. I'm halfway through a small session with a coach right now, so not a mentor coach, which I'm finding really helpful. It's kind of quite nice, a bit like I don't know, I thoroughly recommend counselling to anyone that I meet, right? That ability to understand yourself, understand what drives you, understand what's not driving you as well, I think is a really great use of time. That going back to not looking after yourself, right? You know, you've got to put yourself as number one, and if you're not doing that some of the time, right, you're doing it none of the time, and I think you've got to do it certainly for some of the time. So I have a coach right now. I've got another couple of sessions to go, and I thoroughly enjoy my time with those. I do mentor a couple of people inside the organization too, which is, you know, also, let's be really clear, right? Being a mentor or a manager is a hugely privileged thing, but actually you do get a huge amount back from it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you know, and it's about building a relationship with someone and also helping them on the journey. But at the same time, if you're not getting something back from it, you're probably not doing it right anyway, right? So
yeah, definitely that mentor relationship needs to be mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
And looking back then on your career, what's the one thing you would have done differently if you had your time again? Or are you completely like happy with your lot?
I'm not happy with my lot. One criticism I always have of people leverage on me, Becky, you always tell me what I've not done rather than how well I've done, and I know that's a fault that I have, right? And sometimes you've definitely got to, you know, push people to do more. I am happy-ish, I guess, and I think if I was fully happy, you know, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, right? I think I'd be doing something else more, something else.
Yeah.
I just want to do my best. Somebody once told me, in fact, when I came back from holiday, nobody's going to tell me this today, I hope, but I'd worked so hard on this project. I'd worked so hard on this project, and all of a sudden, in fact, it was around the .com boom. So anyone alive to remember that, that's how old I am again. So around the .com, and I worked so hard to do this thing with this other person, and basically this whole thing fell apart. And I went on holiday. I thought, I'm going to get fired when I come back. I'm going to get fired. This is it. I'm done. I'm going to enjoy this holiday, though. A bit stressed about holiday, but enjoy the holiday. And anyway, I came back, and my boss said to me, Rebecca, just want to recognise you worked really hard. It didn't go as well as you want, but I just want to tell you, you tried your best. You absolutely tried your best. You can't do anything other than to try your best, and recognise that. I'm going to give you a pay rise. Want you on the team. Chalk it down as learning. Move on. And for me, you know, and I have sometimes this thing about bringing your A game to work. This, like, you know, what is your A game? And it's hard, right? But the first rule of that is you've got to try your best. And if you are trying your best, nobody can ask anything more of you than that. Yeah, is all I would say. And there's various other things on that, which is also look after yourself and continuously learn and give people feedback. But trying your best is all that can be asked of you, and that includes when you've got kids, around, or when you've got, you know, elderly parents to look after, or when you've got a dog that's sleeping quite happily next to me to look after.
Yeah. And it's all people can really control, isn't it? Effort and attitude is sometimes all you've got that you can control. So it's
it is. I love that effort and attitude. We also chatted about shed, this concepts of shed, the sleep, the hydration, the exercise, and the diet. You know, they're the things that make us function.
Yeah.
You know, on the basic levels every day, right? Because without enough sleep, without enough hydration, without enough exercise, without the correct diet, actually we're not performing at our best. And sometimes it's hard to do that because we're busy and we're just grabbing a snack on the way and whatever else, or we're busy and the kids are keeping us up. But you know, we can just do our best to try and keep those in check. One way of being our best.
Yeah. Good planning needed, I think.
Good planning. That was one of my favourite jobs. I was a project manager at Pizza Hut, and that was one of my absolute. Pizza Wednesday was. To be fair, we also have a pizza. Anyone catches this? We also have a Pizza Wednesday once a month in my. Maybe that was the reason why. But Pizza Wednesday, every Wednesday, would have these pizzas coming from the local Pizza Hut. It was great.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you a project manager for Pizza Hut, you need free pizza. It's definitely got to be
it was a great job because it taught me about scaling things. So if you ruin one Pizza Hut restaurant, whether it's the takeaway or dine-in, whatever they exist at the moment, you know, it's getting hundreds of restaurants throughout the UK, and you scaled it out, you would literally you could ruin a business.
Yeah. You're obviously working in cybersecurity, which you know, there's new innovations and trends all the time, new technology, new challenges. How do you stay current? I know as a CIO now, and I know technology isn't your ultimate skill set now because you'll have teams of people that do that, but you've still got to know what you're talking about. How do you do that as an individual?
It's really hard. There's that I talked about if you're not growing, you're dying. So so I definitely don't read as many books as I should. I'm not a great book reader, either digital or paper. I've got one sat next to my bed, and maybe it's because I find it a bit boring. But I've been trying to struggle through that for like the last month, and it was like I was going to read on holiday, I never did. But definitely read. I think about what I read. I definitely read business news every day. I know that. I know what's going on with current affairs. I definitely go on LinkedIn. I definitely sometimes read the news on there, and I talk to people. Right, you know, my job, you know, like this, you know, after we finish the call, I'll be back on another call. Right, my job every day is talking. So, as much as I enjoy talking, I also appreciate when I've got to listen. And actually, you know, I've got a head of security. She does a brilliant job. I listen to the people around me in terms of what's going on, and I also and it's probably from my background as a developer, as a systems analyst, a business analyst, is I can quite happily cruise along at the top, looking down. But there's definitely times when you've just got to dive in, which is really annoying to the people when I do it too. But you know, when you just don't understand the logic of why a path has been chosen, because you can't, you know, my job, I can't be there for every decision of the day. And in fact, if I'm making every decision, I'd be doing a really rubbish job, right? My job is for everybody to do the decisions. But when I'm unsure, I'll dive straight in and get the detail. I would do that background research to understand a bit more about that detail. But it is about reading, you know, not necessarily the books as much, but certainly just the stuff that's going on. You know, whether it's through current affairs, whether it's just what's going on, you know, let's be really clear, right? I work for a global business, so it's helpful that I know what's going on in all sorts of different parts of the world. And to have those relationships with teams that work in America, work in Manila, work in APAC, I need to know what's going on there. But just also in the tech news side, is just listen to people, talk to people, and just being inquisitive. You know, don't not be inquisitive. And also as leader, right? Don't be afraid to ask someone a question, a dumb question, because those dumb questions, somebody may be much better than you. Certainly, technically wise, a lot of people are a lot better than me now, right? But just asking dumb questions, I think is really helpful.
So I'm hoping that there's some aspiring CIOs that are watching this podcast series, because that's really the purpose of it, that we're kind of encouraging others. And what advice would you give to our audience here that are looking to achieve what you've achieved in your career and getting to that CIO role? What are the
I think focus on the people, right? And I mean all the people. So if you're aspiring now and you've got no people that you manage, then try to get yourself into that position where you're managing some people. But the only way you do that, and let's be really clear, right? Management is a privilege. It's not a right. If you just want to be a manager, can be a manager, please do me a favor. Don't think about being a manager. It's an absolute privilege to manage people. So if you are doing it because you just want to do it, what did you say about choosing your mindset? What was that phrase you used a minute ago, Sarah?
Effort and attitude.
Effort and attitude. I love it. Effort and attitude. Yeah, just like your attitude has got to change, right? It's a real privilege to manage people. If you don't think it that way, then you stay in technology, don't manage people. So change your attitude. But if your attitude is to want to make things better, then just make sure you're talking to and connecting to and building stakeholders inside and outside your organization, with people, because actually the technology is important, right? But it's the least important thing. The people that are doing this, are using this technology, are building this technology, they're the most important people in this whole thing. So just build relationships, talk to people, outside of your immediate team, above you, below you, around you, to just start doing that. So you're used to working in that way, because the only way to be a CEO and a good CEO is to manage people, lead people, support people, role model behaviors, and then actually you'll just get there. You'll just get there naturally. You've got to do your best every day, but that's okay. You can do that.
Amazing. That's great advice, Rebecca. Final question is actually from our previous guest, and we always ask them to leave a question. I'm going to ask you to do the same at the end of this. So this question is, as a CIO, what is the most pressing concept or topic from the board or the CEO at NCC that you believe will impact all organizations over the next 12 months?
I think there's two, right? One, I think there's easy answer is it's AI, whatever. I'm gonna, and there is two for the organisation that I work in. So one of them is definitely AI and where that's going to go, and I've got my own views on that, and they are simply that AI will definitely do more. I also a technologist, right? I understand technology is AI, machine learning. It's not even AI. I mean, whatever you want to package the marketing term of AI, but AI will definitely have an impact on us because it's being built into all the tools that we have. Certainly with SaaS solutions, it's all being built into that. So it's how are we truly going to leverage AI? And the answer is I don't know yet, but it will just become very visible as to what and where we can use it. And as with all things, it's like the business, not just technology, the business will pull it, and we just need to be there. Already have laid the track out from a technology point of view, just to start using it. So AI is definitely one. And of course, I work for cyber business, right? Cyber, is, I talked about it being a number one. It's absolutely a number one, right? And it should be, I think, for every organization, right? Because if you haven't got your cyber security right and something happens, there's either big fines or no business or both. So the cyber thing for me is absolutely crucial. So AI and cyber are the big ones. There's lots of other big ones, but they're the big ones.
They're the big ones. And I guess final question for me: where do you think AI will be in 12 months' time? Because last year we were all talking about it and tinkering with it, and now even now businesses aren't using it in earnest across their organizations. They're starting to, but how far do you think it will get in the short term?
I think we'll start seeing some very niche plays of where AI are, and so for example, I think things like service centers, and Google was doing it years ago, right? But just instead of talking to a chatbot, actually talking to a real generative AI device that's integrated to systems that can actually answer your questions. And I think it's kind of quite interesting that we're based in the UK, right? But we would have that big backlash. I don't want to talk to a call center outside the UK. People didn't want to do that. I think the next iteration of that, from a call center point of view, is going to be you're going to be talking to an AI call center, and at the end of that conversation, which then you might talk to someone else that could be in the UK, right? but I think that's going to be one place for it. I think we're going to start seeing more of it, certainly around data. I talked about earlier on, how we, having such a vast amount of data. Every organization has so much data now, right? Definitely some around cybersecurity, but there's just data around customers, there's data around sales, there's data around profit, there's data around, products, layering something on AI with that, where it can see trends that the human mind can't see, because we've got so much bias. And of course there's a whole challenge around how does bias not get baked into AI, and of course it already is. But just like, how can we use AI to properly leverage that? It was big data, wasn't it, 5 years ago, right? So how can we're just talking about big data now, but how can AI start leveraging that data that clearly is quite big, and start helping us make decisions, and hopefully helping us make the right decisions, right? Because if it helps us make the wrong decisions, that's no good. So I think it's going to be that.
Amazing. Rebecca, thank you so much for your time. It's been a really enjoyable hour chatting away to you about your experience.
It's been lovely. Thank you.
Bringing to life your experience as a CIO.